CAT has predominantly been a conceptual paper rather than a calculation heavy paper, and thus it becomes all the more important to have a good hold on concepts. Post that followed diligently solving mocks and analyzing them well. One mistake that I did was to take quant for granted. For a brief period of time, I thought that I will do good in quant anyways, so I should focus my time on the other two. It did hurt my scores in quant, and I was back to square one. So it is important to focus regularly on weak and strong subjects equally. Because I was fairly confident in quant, my aim was to solve everything that comes up in the paper. And of course, if it is difficult for me, it will be difficult for everyone. So I didn't care much about how much I would really solve. CAT is just not about your knowledge. You have to be the best version of yourself only during those 2 or 3 hours, and that's it. Never compare your marks and strategy to anyone. Everyone has a different test-taking skill, and you have to find the right strategy for yourself.
Speed is the key. There will be so many questions, and everybody who is giving the CAT exam is capable of solving that question. The percentile only goes to that person who is able to solve it faster. The strategy that I followed for solving quants in the mock CATs and in the real CAT was the scanning strategy. So I used to scan 10 questions at a time. There were 33 questions of quant in a section, and I used to go for like 11 questions. I used to scan 11 questions, mark them as very easy, moderate, difficult. After I'm done with the 11th question just by reading in 2 or 3 seconds, then I used to solve these questions, the easy and very easy questions. I used to keep the moderate and difficult just as marked. Then I used to scan the next 11 questions similarly. Once I reached the end of the section, then I used to come back, solve the moderate questions of all these 3 sections, and if the time permits, I can go for the difficult sections. That helped me to not get stuck with questions, that helped me to improve my self-esteem, because I'm able to solve questions that improves your confidence.
Try to see whether the questions you are attempting are the ones that you should be attempting. When you're starting out to cover your syllabus, you should only be attempting those questions. And ideally, if you can only attempt 12 questions, it's fine if you're done attempting even in 30 minutes and then you sit around trying something or the other with the other 30 minutes. As you proceed along your curve of syllabus coverage, you will find that you're able to at least touch more questions, and then the real scare of judgment comes in, because you don't want to waste more time on one single question. It's very important to be pragmatic and not get emotional about these questions, because you need to leave one. If it's very tough, it's alright. You can solve the other 30, 33 and get the same marks. And that is vital in the quant section. So use the 3-4 parameters I mentioned, which are the percentage accuracy, the percentage attempt, how much time you took versus the average time that everybody else took.
I have scored as low as 60 percentile in many of the mock exams, and I have also been through that phase. So if you keep working on it, I think you will eventually improve on it. But the key point is you have to identify the problems here. Having said that, devising special strategy for each type of questions is understandable, but sometimes it might also be the case that no matter how hard you work on something, you are not able to meet that accuracy or precision for that matter. As that happened with me in the case of BA in BARC, I was not able to mark as many correct answers as I was working hard on it. So in that moment, it's important to realize that you need to finalize the number of questions that you want to attempt. And if you think that RC is your strong point, work a little more there, and make sure that no matter how hard the overall paper gets, you'll be able to ace that RC portion. So ultimately, the whole number is going to be from that section, and if you think you cannot improve much on the difficult sections,
CAT is giving at least one unconventional set in each test. Now, looking at the question, it might feel that it might be very tough, but solving the question, it gets pretty easy. For example, in 2017, there was a set around chess game. In 2019, there was a set around raindrops. Now, while looking at the question, it might look unfamiliar, it might look tough, but while solving the question, once you understand the passage, the questions are fairly easy. That is how the CAT generally is. Now, if they are giving a set which they feel the aspirants might be very comfortable in, then they try to make the questions difficult. Now again, while I do have those 2 sets on priority, I used to try to solve all the questions in those 2 sets. And in the rest of the sets, one thing that CAT generally does is, the first 2 questions are fairly easy and they can be solvable of all the data that is there available in the set. But the next 2 questions, they used to give additional data, and for that you need to put a lot more hard work. So in these sets, I only used to solve those 2 questions, and then I used to get done with it. Now this approach has really helped me to score well in DILR.
CAT and the entire process is fairly straightforward, and you will go through it. I wish you all the best, and I would just like to say one thing before leaving. If you have lower CATs, please focus on getting a very high CAT score to get you through. I would recommend a 99.6 at least, and ideally a 99.8 plus. That's the only way out if you have to cover for your lower CAT.